Dear colleagues, I am Daniela Vasile, the Director of Learning, and I'm very happy to welcome you to the first Teacher Council of the year. The most commonly occurring question I had over the past week from you and from your head of departments was, what is hybrid learning? This, together with Kevin Bartlett's invitation on defining learning, brings us to the first activity for today. What is a common terminology we use to define learning environments? Over the past half of a year, during this pandemic, the online learning and everything what is related to online environments has changed. Therefore, if we look up in the dictionary different terms, they will not match what we are currently experiencing in schools. The definitions we are going to agree on over the next slides are taken from Michael Fullan's recent work on hybrid learning. As always, we define face-to-face or in-person or brick-and-mortar learning environments as the one where we have all students in a room together with a teacher and they all learn together using physical resources. Online learning or e-learning refers to learning that is facilitated wholly by the use of digital tools. Student learns independently and the feedback is given by the online tool. Alongside with online learning, distance learning occurs when teachers, students, and classrooms are separate and uses a range of approaches including online over significant physical distancing. That's a definition from Michael Fullan. In the past months, very often online and distance learning were used interchangeable. This has created confusion to parents in general and not necessarily specific to Avenor parents, which I don't know about. Parents often assume that what happened between March and June was online learning, where the focus was on the student content interaction and less on student-teacher interaction. In fact, what happened over the past months at Avenor was distance learning. Blended learning involves a mix of face-to-face and digital experiences, usually delivered as a part of a physical classroom experience. We can think of this environment as a regular brick-and-mortar class where the human is enriched by technology. Very often, blended learning is used for the type of learning where some students are remotely at home too. I suggest to keep the term blended learning for learning that is face-to-face in school, in the physical environment, and it's enriched by technology. I suggest to keep this definition of Michael Fullan's because when the pandemic will be over and we return all in the physical environment, we still want to have our classes enriched by technology. And we are going to keep the name blended learning for this environment. Hybrid learning is the most flexible and general way of learning, where we will have some students in front of you and some students will be at home. This learning can be delivered synchronously, where all students learn together at the same time, or asynchronous, where the teacher offers the materials to the Google Classroom and students, part of the students or all students study independently. So we have two new terms, synchronous learning, where all students learn together at the same time, and asynchronous learning, where they learn independently at their own pace. In hybrid learning, we can use students that are in front of us can be on their laptops, same as in this image, or they can learn using physical resources, while students being at home, they will of course learn using digital resources. As mentioned, they can all learn at the same time or at various times. However, we must make sure that students that are at home are engaged in learning too, so they need to be parts, at least parts of the lesson where they are engaged synchronously with the rest of the class. The challenge with the hybrid learning is to create connection and a sense of community in our classes. I am a big fan of flipped learning. Flipped learning can be very successfully used when the teacher needs to deliver direct instruction and flourished alongside the technological era. Direct instruction moves learning from the group space to the individual learning space, thus leaving the group learning space to be transformed into an interactive environment where students engage in discussing the content learned at home and in applying what they learn and in critical thinking. How many times do we teachers complain for not having enough contact time with students? For teaching surface learning and not having time to go in depth? Flip learning moves the surface learning at home and leaves space in class for deep learning. I will invite you now to complete the Google form that is attached to the Google Classroom post. After that, during our synchronous learning, for the second part of this session, we will continue looking at these learnings from the past, and you'll have some time to read them yourselves. They are from an extensive study provided by the Education Endowment Foundation. These are learning from the past months of online school. How do we take them in future? How do we make learning accessible to all students, no matter what is the environment? Thank you very much.